Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a new Razer Academy YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about StarCraft 2. Now what I'm gonna do on this YouTube channel, I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different Zerg fundamental things, and we are going to cover the basics of the race. Now in this very first episode we are gonna go over two subjects. First of all, we're gonna go over hotkeys, and in the second part we are gonna go over control groups. Those are incredibly important and they will definitely help you improve, so I'm going to assume you already know the very basics of the race. You know, we are gonna cover Zerg, so I'm gonna assume that you already know the basics of Zerg. Now, I'm not only going to keep to the hotkeys and the control groups, however, I'm also going to cover queen injects. I'm gonna cover build orders for each and every matchup. We are going to go over a whole bunch of stuff, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So, in this very first episode, we are gonna cover, like I said, control groups and hotkeys. Now, control group and hotkeys are insanely important. I think it's one of the most underappreciated subjects that you can ever talk about, because once you actually get used to them, it is actually super hard to change anything. Let's say, right now I've been playing this game for a bunch of years. If I would all of a sudden switch out all my hotkeys, it would actually take a pretty long time and a lot of frustration to change it all up. So it's better to start off with a good basics, and better to start off with something that you are comfortable using. And therefore, it's really important to put a little bit of thought into it, so we can start off really well and we can actually crush through the ranks and go from platinum to masters within literally months. So, first of all, hotkeys. Now, there are a bunch of different hotkey setups that you can use in StarCraft 2. Battle.net actually has a bunch of good ones in there as well, and I know a lot of professional gamers like to use the standard hotkey setup just because they were used from the Warcraft 3 days, or they were used from the Brood War days, and it just easily switched over and they easily went over to StarCraft 2 using those hotkeys. However, I'm going to assume that you're kind of new to RTS games, you're not completely like a total badass and you're not already Grandmaster League or whatever, so I'm going to assume you're kind of new to it, and what I would definitely recommend you do is this. So here we are in StarCraft 2, obviously, right? I would assume you've at least seen this screen. So what I would recommend you do is go to the menu, go to options, and go to hotkeys. Now, there are a bunch of different profiles that you can choose from, and I personally would recommend you go to grid. Grid is a hotkey setup. As you can see, it's QWERT. That basically corresponds to the bottom right corner of the screen when you're playing a game. So in the bottom right corner, you will get this little overlay, and the little grid hotkey setup will show you and correspond to each and every individual key that is showing up in the bottom right corner of the screen. So this is the keyboard that I personally use. This is actually a Razer Black Widow Stealth Tournament Edition, and as you can see, it's nice and compact and it's really awesome for StarCraft 2. Now what the grid setup means is that you're basically using this little square right here on the keyboard. All the keys that are in the grid hotkey setup will be inside of this little square. Now this little square corresponds to the bottom right corner of the actual game, and it will show you all the things that are going on, and you definitely don't have to make any weird movements with this, because you are basically already really nearby whenever you're using the keyboard. So that is the first part of this video. I would definitely recommend you open up the grid hotkeys and simply teach your brain to start pushing buttons instead of using the mouse to click stuff. Now the second part, like I mentioned, we are going to go over control groups. Now control groups are basically little selections of units that you can make, or buildings, and you can put them on a certain number, and that way you are allowed to recall that certain control group for much easier use. Let's say I actually have a bunch of hatcheries. What I can do is put them to one control group and therefore control all the larvae that are available to these hatcheries. Now let's take a look at what I personally like to use. So this is the hotkey setup that I personally really like to use in the early part of the game. What I have is both of my hatcheries on the hotkey number 4, both of my queens on hotkey number 5 to easily control both of them. Then I have my first set of units on hotkey number 1, and I got my first overlord number 3, second overlord on number 2. Now, when I first start out, I actually hotkey my hatchery right away on hotkey number 4. I hotkey my first overlord exactly at the same time on hotkey number 3. That way I can easily get between all my stuff really early on in the game. Now let's say we are a little bit later into the game and I actually start adding other units. What I would do is actually use hotkey number 1, 2 and 3 to control my army around the map. So let's say my Mutalisk will be on hotkey number 1, my Zerglings will be on hotkey number 2, and my Infestors will be on hotkey number 3. That way I can actually separately and individually control all my units and get much better engagements off, instead of having everything on one control group. So yeah, these are the hotkeys that I would recommend that you would use. As always, I would actually recommend you start off by using the grid hotkey setup. The grid hotkey setup is just much easier for your brain to learn because it corresponds with the bottom right corner of the screen, and it's much easier to teach your brain to use certain hotkeys. Now the second point that we talked about, I would always recommend you put all your hatcheries on number 4 or your queens on number 5 and use 1, 2 and 3, first of all for overlords, but later in the game to control individual parts of your army. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the Cult of Razer YouTube channel for more. If you really enjoyed the video, you can actually check out my YouTube channel. There will be a button right here that you can click to go to my YouTube channel, and you will be able to check out all kinds of StarCraft 2 videos. As always, I hope you will have a great day. Do not forget to smile, and hopefully I will see you in the next episode, guys. Bye!
Hello, this is liang-tan from Team Evageniusus, aka Stefano. And this is the Razer Academy replay review. Today we're gonna watch a ZVZ game, me against Kane, and I'm gonna make you understand how to open in a ZVZ on Heart of the Swarm. This time we're gonna see some ZVZ build orders. Right now the matchup is very easy, there's absolutely no place to metagame or anything else.